Hello everybody, here's the next video in our array series. We are going to talk about inserting elements into an array. In the last video, we talked about adding elements to an array and removing it. So if you look at our code that we did last time, we added elements, but we added elements by asking the user how many elements did they want to enter, right? The capacity was set at 20. We ask them how many numbers do you want to enter, and we go through a for loop and simply add it always at the end. So if you run this program and if I add elements and I say I want to add 5 elements, I could just add them in whatever order. They're not sorted, they're not, I add them as 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and I pick a number to delete, for example, and it just goes in that order and deletes 3, and the number is just added at the end always, right? Because I goes from 0 to count, and I'm always adding an I goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. We are always adding at the end, but not all data structures or all lists have numbers always added at the end, right? We could have different types of data structures. So let's look at one where we are going to try and insert numbers into the right position. So if the user enters 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, the numbers should be in the right order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert in ascending order, for example. Okay, we're not going to use any sorting algorithms. We are going to try and insert it in the right position as the numbers get added. So how are we going to do that? That is kind of what this is talking about. So before we look at that, let's see. First of all, we have to know how to insert an element in an existing list, right? If the list is empty, then obviously it goes in the first position. There's nothing else to compare to. Okay, so but let's say our list is already done and we have a list of elements. First, we'll see how to insert a number between any two numbers. Then we'll see how to insert it at the right position. So this is in Zybooks, talks about how to insert given a list and given a number. So we have a list, and how do I insert an element at index 3? 3 already has a number 18. I don't want to overwrite that number. What I want to do is when the list is finished, I want it to look like this. So I want 87, for example. It's not in the order. We'll see how to do that in a minute. But 87 gets inserted between 16 and 18. How do we insert? And notice I still have 18 and 9. But now my number of elements has gone from 5. Count was 5. Count has gone from 5 to 6. So now there are 6 elements. Okay. So how do we do that? We start with, here is the original list, count is at 5, and I said I want to insert the element at index 3, okay, for whatever reason. I want to insert number, some value, 87 or whatever I picked, at position 3. So what I need to do now is to shift everything to the right. I need to make room for this. I need to shift, keeping in mind that I can have only 10 elements in my list. I know the last number, so I want to start before the last number, and I want to start shifting. Now notice I'm shifting from the end. Unlike my remove, when we started shifting from del pos this way to the left. So notice, go up here and take a look at my del algorithm, where delete index, if we are deleting at 3, we are shifting from the from the right side to the left. We are overwriting. 17 gets overwritten by 18. And 18 gets overwritten by 9, and so on, and we are removing. But in this case, we are not removing. We want to insert. We want to make room. So to make room, if I start from this position and I go right, I'm going to overwrite 9, and I'm going to lose 9. So what I want to do is I want to start from the end of my list so I don't lose the elements over here, okay, and make room. So I take 9 and copy it over first. 9 is the last element in my list. Then I move down and I copy 18. So my loop looks a little different. Okay, so switching over to my whiteboard. Okay, so we have a list of numbers. We're going to write an algorithm to insert. Then we are going to write an algorithm to see how to insert in the right order. So let's say that we go from 0 to my capacity is 20, so I'll go from 0 to 19. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. Let's say I have 6 numbers in my list. My count is at 6, and I have some random numbers. This is not sorted, that's okay. 10, 11. Okay, now I want to, let's say, insert a number at position 2. This is where I want to insert. Okay, so here is my new pos, and whatever my new number could be called new num, which could be any number. Now if I want to insert here, what I'm saying is, if I start shifting from here and copy 15 over to 1, I've just lost 1. And then I copy that 15 over to 10, I've just lost 10, and I'll just copy 15 over and over. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to start from the end. My loop is going to start from, so now think about it. Do I want to start from count? You can go either way. It depends on how you're going to write your algorithm. If I is going to start at count, for I equals count, I'm going to come backwards, okay? And we'll figure these things out in a minute, what goes in my for loop. If this is I, this would be I minus 1, because we're going backward, remember? If this is 6, this is 5, right? I want to copy from I minus 1 to I. I want to copy this over. So I want to say list of, I want to copy from, goes on the right hand side, I minus 1 to I, from 2. This is important for you to figure out what goes on the right side and what goes on the left side. And the only way to figure it out is don't keep everything in your head, write it down on paper. So now I'm copying from I minus 1 from 5, write it down here, I'm copying to 6. So I've copied this over. Now I needs to come down, I is here, remember? I needs to come down to 5 so I can copy from here to here next. So if I needs to come down to 5, what should I be doing with I? I shouldn't be here anymore. I needs to come down here. That means I needs to go down. I needs to decrement every time. If I needs to decrement, then this is I minus minus. Okay, so we are not doing this. We are going backward. We did copy from here to there. Then the next thing is we do want to copy from here to here, but I goes backward. See? Okay, so now this is I, means this is I minus 1. So we are copying from I minus 1 to I. So this becomes 10. I decrements again. Okay, so the loop is okay, but how far do I want to go? What is this condition? Okay, when I get to this position, when I gets here, I copy from I minus 1 to I, and then I should stop because that is where I want to insert. So I greater than new pos will do it. As long as I is greater than new pos, if I keep coming backward from count and copy from I minus 1, which is from here to here, like that, then I will be good. I would have copied everything over, make sure that my count never goes over capacity as you do that every time. Now I can increment, I can put, where do I put it? New pos. List of new pos equals new num. The new number goes into that position. And then I increment count. Now count has become 7. Count is not at 6 anymore. Count should be sitting at 7 because we just added a number. Okay, so this is how we insert a number. Now, to insert into a list sorted, what do we do? So let me clear this and let's start over. I want to insert sorted. Okay, so when we start, I can't write quite on the top there. When we start, your list is empty, right? They haven't added anything. Okay, so count is 0. All the numbers are 0. There is nothing in my list. The capacity is 20. So you check when the user enters a number. If count equals 0, then you simply add it at 0. List of count. Here's a trick. List of count plus plus, you can do that, equals num, whatever the user enters. Okay. If count is not 0, then we have to figure out how to insert. So let's say the user first enters a number 5. Okay, first number has been done. That's it. There's nothing to compare to. The list is empty. Now, once the first number has been entered, then let's say the user enters 10. Now you got to figure out, does 10 go before 5 or after 5? So how do you figure out where to insert that 10? So you're going to look at the number that the user entered versus the number in the list, which means you need to start comparing with every single number in your list. So you're going to go through a for loop, the same for loop that we use every time. For I equals 0, I less than count, I plus plus. You're going to compare. As long as the number, we have to use another variable that is going to help us find the position to insert. Okay, so as long as we have not found the position, you're going to keep moving, right? You're going to keep incrementing I. So while list of I, as long as the number in the array is less than the number that the user entered. So this is actually a while loop would be better instead of a for loop. I'm going to get rid of the for loop because I just realized I have a while loop. I'm going to start I at 0. Let's start I at 0. Okay, let's say we declare I up there. I is starting at 0. I have a position. While list of I less than num, as long as this element in the list is less than num, I want to increment I. Let's see how this works. Okay. The minute we find that the number in the list is greater than num, we need to stop incrementing. Okay, and we'll come out of the while loop here. So if the user entered 10, we're going to compare. I starts at 0. While 5 less than 10, we've incremented I. Okay, I went to the next num. And then we're going to go back into it, and there's no number there. So this would be a bad loop because 5 is less than 10. It's going to increment I. Then it's going to go and check this. This is going to be 0. I'm hoping this will be a 0 if we initialize everything to 0. It will check 0 less than 10 is true, and it will keep going. And that is not a good thing for us. So at some point in time, we need to have another condition here. While list of I less than num, let's add a condition here to this while. I'm going to kind of put it here. And what should we do? I, as long as I is less than count, we need to keep going. The minute I becomes equal to or greater than count, we need to come out of there. We don't want to do that. Okay, we don't want to keep going. So in this case, 0 less than 10 will be true, but I less than count will not be true because I will become 1, count is 1, 1 less than 1 is false. So we come out of there. When we come out of there, I will be sitting at this position where we want to insert. So I'm going to insert the new num at 10. Okay, and we'll write an algorithm for that. So then 10 gets inserted here. Okay, this insert algorithm will take care of inserting the number and incrementing count. And we just saw how to insert a number in between two numbers. So we will use that algorithm. Okay, now let's see if this whole thing will work for the rest of the numbers. Okay, that's the second number has been inserted. Count has been incremented. Count is here. I'm going to just say C for count. Let's see the next number that the user enters. Let's say 7. Okay, let's see if our theory works. We'll go back to this whole thing. If count is 0, because I'm going to put this whole thing in a big loop. So the user is going to keep entering numbers until we'll find some sentinel. If count is 0, count is not equal to 0. Count is equal to 2. So we won't go into this at all. We'll come here. Else, I starts at 0, while list of I, which is my number, 5, is less than num, which is 7, I is going to increment. So 5 is less than 7, so I has gone here. 10 is not less than 7, so we're going to come out of the loop. Okay, so I is here. Now we're going to insert number at, this was not 10, this should have been insert number. We inserted it 1 before. Insert number, we are again inserting at 1. And my insert algorithm will take care of shifting this number. So this will become 10, this will become 7, and count has moved over here now. That my insert algorithm will take care of. We'll write a function for that. We go back, let's say the user enters 11. It will not go here because count is not equal to 0. It will come here. We again start I at 0. We compare. 5 is less than 11, so we move over. I increments. 7 is less than 11, so we increment. 10 is less than 11, so we increment. We come here. 0 is less than 11, but we've found that our I is not less than count because I becomes 3, count becomes 3. That condition becomes false. So we come out of there and then we insert the number at I, which is our new position here. And so we've inserted 11 here, right? So the numbers are getting inserted in the right order. So now let's go back and try and write code for this and see how it works. So this is just purely inserting. We're not doing any deletion here. Okay, so here is the program. It's set up for a couple of things. So we have the same list of cap is set at 20, count is 0, num is 0. We have two variables. Count keeps track of the number of elements in the array. And we said we're going to read numbers. We talked about all the algorithms. We said we're going to read numbers until user enters a sentence, and we are going to add all those numbers to the list. As long as count is less than cap, we'll be okay. And we'll check that, right? So we tell the user enter numbers -1 to stop. And I should put the whole thing inside parentheses. -1 to stop. Okay, so as long as the user enters a number that's not equal to -1, we'll keep going. We just said if count is 0, that means if there are no numbers in the list, simply add the number to the list. And notice this, you can do count plus plus. So the plus plus, the post increment here matters a lot. We count is 0, you add num to position count, then I increment count. Okay, count becomes 1 after, which is what we want. This is the same as doing this. Okay, so I could put it all in one statement by saying increment count after I add a number. Now this is very different from this. Notice when the plus plus, and I cannot do this obviously, it says what you're doing is not right. The plus plus, this, what it will do is the value in that position will get incremented by 1. So I initialized my array values to 0. So now the first value has gotten incremented to 1 instead of a 0. That's what that is. That's not what I want to do now. There are times when we will want to do that, you will see, and we will actually be doing that, but that's not what I want to do now. I want to put num in position 0 and increment count. Well, what if it's not the first number? And here's where I'm just going to write my algorithm. I am going to have a variable, I'll call it pause instead of I, and pause is the one that's going to move in my list. Okay, so else I'm going to start pause equals 0, and I'm going to check while list of pause less than num, and pause is less than count, we said. Remember, we start from 0, pause starts at 0, and we go through the whole list checking to see if the number, well, that's what this is doing. While the number in this position is less than the number that the user entered, I want to increment pause. I want to keep going. That's what we said in our algorithm. Okay, as long as the number in the list is less than the number that the user entered, or pause is less than count, we want to keep our counter moving. The minute we find that this one of these conditions is false, it'll come out of the while loop. When it comes out of the while loop, we said we are going to call the insert function, and I have an insert function, and send everything to it. And what all do we need to send to it? And send the list, count, pause, and the new number, all of this stuff to the function. Okay, So I'm going to call insert, and I'm going to show you the insert function in a minute. We're going to send list. We are going to send pause. I'm going to send count and num, which will be received as a new num. Okay, you know by now how to send arrays and parameters to functions. Here's my function. The function receives a list. Lists by default are sent by reference. You know that by now. It receives the position because my position is now marked. Okay, so if you recall from my algorithm real quick, here is the algorithm that's still there. Notice this is my I that I put down as position now. So its position is just moving. When it finds the right position, we are going to insert the number there. Count is going to get incremented, right? So this was the algorithm that we looked at. So count needs to be sent by reference because count is going to change. It's going to get incremented. And list, on the other hand, is already sent by reference. Position marks where I want to insert. New num is the number that I want to insert. That's the number that I read from the user. That doesn't need to be sent by reference because it's just going to get added to the list. Okay. Now I check if count is less than cap. Make sure count is not reached cap. If it has, then you want to stop adding. So as long as count is less than cap. So if count is at 19, we can still add one more. That's it. No more. Okay. We won't be adding at 20. Remember, count will get to 20, but position will never be 20 because we've already checked that here. If position is 19, we do it. If position gets to 20, we will never be here. Okay. So we start the shifting process starting at count. At the end, remember, I greater than pause, I minus minus. This is per our algorithm that we did before. You copy from I minus 1 to I. And when that loop is done, we find the right position. We have shifted everything. We've taken the new number, put it into the right position, increment count. And we don't need to return anything. The list comes back. And then I'm just going to print the list. And to print the list, I'm going to come here and steal my code for printing, which I have somewhere here. So let's copy that. And we'll put it here. And we print the list. And count is the same count, so nothing should change here. So let's see how this works. Did I close my while loop? I have my while num not equal to -1. Yes, I did close my while loop here. Okay, let's test and see how this code works. And if it doesn't work, we'll have to hand trace it. So I do have a prompt. Okay, I realized that I don't have a cin at all. That's why my program is hanging. Cin num, and every time after I'm done inserting at the end of the while loop, I have to read the number again. And it won't prompt them again, but it'll prompt one time. Okay, now that I fixed my infinite loop. Okay, 4, 5, 12, 1, 2, 3. So I've gone in different orders. Now if I enter -1, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. Okay, test it again. Go completely in the reverse order and see if that works. 10, 9, 8, 7, 0, -1. Okay, that works. Go completely in the right order and see if it works as well. -1. Okay, so you want to test every single possibility that you can think of. Okay, so that is how you insert sorted. We don't want to use any sorting algorithm. We write an algorithm to insert. So this shows you two things. One is how to check to see how to insert at the right position and how to actually do the insert. Okay, we'll do a couple